Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
The weather seems to be warming up, so it seems to be. The sun's coming out anyway. I like to think.
It's disappeared just now.
Oh,
Hopefully,
okay.
that afternoon it's supposed to come back.
Well, it's trying. It's trying.
It's
So today we'll explore something which I've come to realise over time. Something about a place, an idea, thought and feeling about where we are. A place we call home, and what that means to me on different levels. So home is a word that carries weight. For some it brings warmth, safety and familiarity. For others it may carry complexity, longing and even absence. But regardless of our experiences, there is something universal about the idea of home. It speaks to a deep, almost unexplainable need within us. And we spend much of our lives trying to build it. We build homes physically, with walls, roofs, furniture and photographs and memories. We arrange spaces to feel safe, to feel like ours. We seek comfort in routine, in belonging, in the people we surround ourselves with. And this is natural. It is human to want shelter, stability, and a place where we can rest. But if we pause for a moment, and we may begin to notice something deeper, even when everything else looks right on the outside, and even when we have created something beautiful and secure, there can still be a quiet longing within us, a sense that something is or may still be arriving. So I'm going to play you a small YouTube video now. Just I'll explain this a little bit. Hopefully it plays.
It's been 3 hours that I've been walking under the rain, non-stop, on the path like this, through mud, rocks, crazy descents. And you can't even imagine how many things went through my head during this period of time. It went from, oh, I love rain. It's so romantic and it's so beautiful and peaceful, to I hate my life and I don't understand why I'm doing this. Am I crazy? Why do I like to suffer? Then it goes again to love it. This is very challenging, but it's also very powerful. And once you stop battling and fighting with yourself, and you just surrender and say, well, this is my way today, this is my Camino today, and I can do nothing about it. And then the miracle happens and you start getting answers to your questions. And this is so powerful. Acceptance, being able to surrender, being able to say, just guide me. I am here because I need to be here, so guide me. It is very liberating. It's been
So in that video, she's taking a walk, obviously a few hours goes by in the pouring rain, and she starts asking herself many questions. What is she doing in this downpour? Why is she doing this? And one minute she's enjoying it, and the next minute she's regretting her choices. And so this is a bit like life in a way, in our journey, and trying to find a place and where we can feel comfort and where we belong. And so a house, a home, is one of those places where we get that comfort and get that belonging. But there's more than just one place of home, which we'll explore shortly. But we can never forget that we are always going to be faced with different challenges, and this shapes your idea and thought process on where you are and what you feel comfort with. And so my own journey is very much full of these kind of questions, and where it's led me right now, which I shall go over some of these deliberations shortly. But while we consider that in our own minds and our own journeys, so we have a physical home, which is could be a house, it could be a town or country, church, or depending on your perspective, it could be the whole earth. At some point we may travel to other planets, you never know, and Earth would be your home, you would call it home. So my perspective on this is, obviously I've lived in various locations, and so I used to, born and bred in Yorkshire, and I moved to Scotland nearly 30 years ago. Never looked back, and stayed here, and really enjoyed it. And I thought that was something that was never going to happen. You know, moving away from where you're brought up is a big upheaval. You know, I had lots of friends, family, and yet I moved to make a better future for my immediate family, for my kids, and for my wife. And that was a wonderful decision. It was very hard, but we made our new home here in the northeast. And then we eventually moved into our current house. Now that was, I quite liked the house when I first saw it, but for Teresa it was the wrong side of the river. So she hated the fact that she had to take the kids to school, and then walk over the footbridge, because she hated footbridges, and then come back to the house. She kept saying, I can't get used to this, it's just the wrong side of the river, I just hate that footbridge. So that was just a little bit of something which she had to try and get used to, in which it was a big change. But eventually that obviously passed, and she didn't mind going over the footbridge, and she, you know, it became her home, and she made it how she wanted it, and we're still there. So it's after nearly 20 odd years anyway, we're still there. So obviously really enjoy it, and that's where we have comfort. And when we've been away on holiday and we come back, it always feels nice to come back. You've got everything there, it's homely, and we both have our rooms which we can disappear into and do our thing. So we love it. So another, which brings me of another memory. So when I was doing my ministry training, we had retreats, and one of those retreats was in Yarnfield. So Yarnfield is a big place where there's lots of things going on. There's lots of training of all different kinds, not just spiritual training, but BT used to use it. They used to have these great big poles that people go up and climb up and do what they, you know, strange seeing all these men climb up all these poles and practice doing whatever they have to do and then come down these poles. And some of the people on the retreat didn't enjoy it because it was very busy and very noisy. In fact, one day we are trying to tune and just relax into a space. And all of a sudden you heard this, and it was a mowing machine, and it was noisy. And we're trying to, you know, close our eyes, get peaceful, and then all you hear is this going on. It's like it was breaking the peace. very hard to concentrate. And but we got beyond that. And so the funny story about this is, so we didn't get many breaks, but we got a 2-hour break, and a few of us says, one guy says, "There's a stone circle nearby. Do you fancy a walk? And we'll have a look around the stone circle." Oh, yeah, sounds interesting. We'll go for have a look around this stone circle. So off we went. It was a beautiful sunny day, and we were going through fields after fields, and we found this path, and we're walking around this path, and we thought, well, eventually it must be not far from here now. We're close. Just had a feeling. Oh, well, one of us did anyway. It's close. We'll find this stone circle. And we got so far, and we thought, right, we've got to turn back. So we've not found this stone circle, but we found some stones, and we made a circle. So we starts heading back, and we come across a couple of people, and they said, "Oh, we're looking for a stone circle. Have you seen it?" And we go, "Yeah, it's that way." Maybe they might find these group of stones in which we set up. Who knows? It was a bit of fun. Anyway, when we got back, it dawned. Somebody who was doing the research. It dawned on them that, oh, I found the stone circle. We said, "Oh, why? Where was it?" He goes, "Well, you know the place we're in." "Yeah." "Well, it's called Stone." "Right. And what we was walking on, it goes in a circle." That was the stone circle. It was funny. So it was hard for some people to feel comfortable in that place. And it didn't bother me so much, because it was the people who was there and what we was doing made it, for me, that was what it was all about. But so Teresa was nearby, stopped nearby, and I spent some time with her, and we roamed around. We visited some of the local sites, and some beautiful sites roundabouts. And it dawned, well, it was something that she said. She goes, "This is really beautiful country, and we've gone to some nice sites, but I just couldn't live here. For me, this would not be home if we moved here." I says, "You know what? I've got that very same feeling about these places we're visiting. I just don't gel. Something inside me that would not rest easily if we decided we was going to move here. Maybe eventually it would, you know. But it was just strange, a feeling inside us that this was not a place we would call home if we ever moved there, or even had an inkling of moving there. So I fully understand what my physical home is, and I think it's great. I feel comfortable there. But there's places where I might feel uncomfortable, and that's, I suppose, the moral of that story. So apart from a physical home, you have a spiritual home. So it could be church, like this place. This is like a spiritual home where you have a connection. It could be family. So wherever you are, you family get together, and that feels like home. It's people who you connect with, or you've grown up with. It's blood relatives. It's your family. And it could be a community or a movement, even something which you connect with somebody else or a group of people, and that feels like home. It's when people think in a similar way, it creates a similarity and something you can connect with, and something greater than yourself, and that can feel quite like home. There's a third category here, which is a non-physical home. I don't know if you can think what that might be. If you think spiritually, then infinity could be home, or multiple realities, or different dimensions, depending on how you view life and on non-physical life. And we'll just delve a little bit into this, just so you have an understanding of what I'm talking about here. So to this. A graph which you're probably all very aware of, or not. So this is M theory. You know, there's a bit of science. I like to throw a little bit of science in. Don't worry, I won't go too deep. Not that I know a lot about M theory, so I can't really tell you a great deal. But in M theory, there is 11 dimensions. So you have time. So it's a one dimension of linear time. So we can all equate and understand that. Then you have 10 spatial dimensions. So 3 will be familiar to you. You have length, width, and height. So, you can imagine a cube. So very common, 3-dimensional. Then you have 7 extra spatial dimensions, which are curled up or compactified dimensions that are not directly observed. So the extra dimensions help explain how all fundamental forces, including gravity, could fit into a single consistent theory, something current physicists struggle to do. So in very simple terms, M theory says reality might be much more complex than we see it, which is our point here, with hidden dimensions shaping the universe at the smallest scales. So the 7 extra dimensions in the M theory are not like the familiar directions of space. They're extremely tiny, curled up dimensions that exist at every point in our universe. So in string theory, which is where M theory originates from, these extra dimensions are often described as having intricate shapes called Calabi-Yau manifolds. So a helpful analogy, imagine a drinking straw. Far away, it looks like a one-dimensional line. It's just got length. Up close, you see a circular dimension around it, so you start to see the rim or the cylindrical side of it. The extra dimensions are like that circular part, but much smaller. So they aren't places you can travel through in any normal sense. So the way these dimensions are shaped affects things like particle mass and charge. In string theory, tiny strings vibrate in these dimensions at different vibrations and different particles. And each of the 7 dimensions could be folded or twisted in different ways, creating many possible versions of physics. So that's the end of the M theory. But the idea that scientists look at what is beyond the physical, and so the idea is they just have not nailed it yet, and they have to come up with different ideas to try and make what we know conform to this way of these different dimensions that are non-physical way of life. Because obviously there's something greater, there's something more, but they just don't understand it yet. So I'm just going to throw in a different perspective. I was doing some research, so I just had to come out with this. It just might be of interest. So spiritually speaking, there are 13 dimensions. The reason why I'm telling you this now is there's many theories that go, there's many theories, but one emerging and constant theory I seem to come across is life is like, it's a bit of an illusion, and it's like a game, it's a simulation. So I thought, what basis has that got, and how can that, you can form an idea about that. So I come across a theory which I think explains it a little bit. So there's 13 dimensions according to this. So at the top there's Valhalla, home of Athena. Then you have heaven. You got 5 shadow earths where things are played out. And then you have 5 live earths where things physically play out. And we're in live earth 3 apparently. And then there is the defunct dimension, which is hell apparently. That's It was brought in to explain some of the, or to bring people in alignment, and then is now defunct apparently. So I'm not going to say much more on that. I just thought it interesting. If anybody ever wanted to pursue that, you may want to look it up. Interesting, but I don't know how that fits. But it seemed to fit with this idea of life being a simulation. So I'll just leave that there. Just interesting piece of information. So this inner longing for home is not something to fix or overcome. I feel like it's more of a calling. There's something within us, or within each of us, beyond our roles, beyond our identities, beyond our circumstances, that is searching. Searching not necessarily for a place, but for a particular state. Not for something external, but for something deeply internal. We may try to name it in different ways, as we see in different faiths and religions. And throughout history, across cultures, across beliefs and traditions, many names have been given to this experience. And some call it spirit, some call it truth, some call it love, or consciousness, or source. There are many names that go on and on. But for me, the simplest and most honest word is home. That's how I like to think of it. Because that is what it feels like. Well, for me, it's a returning or a remembering, a deep sense of this is where I belong. And here is the paradox. The part that can sometimes be difficult to grasp at first. The home we are longing for is not somewhere we need to get to. We are already there because it's inside. So, not physically perhaps, not in the way we usually understand space and time and location, but in a deeper sense, in our essence and in our being. We have never left, and yet we don't realize it. We search outside ourselves for something that has always been within us, and this is where surrender comes in. So this lives inside, and I'm going to try and explain that a little bit and how this feels like home. But to get there, we have to surrender to it. Surrender is often a word which is misunderstood. It can sound like giving up, like losing control, or like a weakness. But true surrender is none of these things. Surrender is not about defeat. It is about release. It is the gentle, courageous act of letting go of constant striving, the constant searching, and the constant need to define and control everything. It is allowing ourselves to soften, to listen, to be. And when we surrender, we're not losing ourselves, we are returning ourselves. We are letting go of everything that is not home so that we can recognize what is. Now I think that's the important thing, is recognizing where do we feel comfortable, where do we not feel comfortable. And so where we're not feeling comfortable, that's obviously not where we belong, it's not our home. Where we feel comfortable is obviously where we do belong, and this is where we can really explore deeper. So what does this mean, home and feel like? It is not something abstract or unreachable. It is not reserved for a select few. It is something that can't be experienced. It can be experienced here now, so it can be experienced here now in this very moment. It may feel like stillness, like a quiet sense of peace beneath the noise of our thoughts, like a warmth in the chest, like a sense of being held even when nothing external has changed. It is subtle, it is unmistakable, and most importantly, it is universal. Whether you have a belief system, a faith, or no faith at all, whether you follow a spiritual path, or none. This experience is available to you and to everybody, and to me, because it is not something we learn, it is something we remember. Well, that's how I like to think, and this is how it's been, how I have experienced it. So across humanity, across all cultures, all backgrounds, all ways of life, there is this shared inner light. This is not something that belongs to one group, one tradition, or one way of thinking. It is within all of us. Not just within us as humans, but within all sentient beings. There is a recognition, a presence, or a spark of life that connects everything. And when we begin to sense this, even just a glimpse, something shifts, and we begin to see that home is not limited to a place, it is a way of being, a way of relating to ourselves, to others, and to the world. So how do we come to know this home? Not just as an idea, but as a lived experience. And again, this is through surrender. Surrender allows us to move from thinking to feeling, from searching to recognizing, from striving to being. It invites us to stop asking, where is home? And instead begin to ask, what happens if I stop trying to find it? And in that space, something opens, and we begin to feel it, not as a concept, but as a reality, a grounding, a steadiness, a quiet sense of safety that does not depend on external conditions. So this inner home is not separate from our physical lives. In fact, it transforms how we live them. When we begin to recognize this deeper sense of home, our relationship with the external world changes. We still build homes, we still create spaces of comfort and safety, and we still seek connection and belonging. But we do so from a different place, not from lack, but from fullness, not from fear, but from trust. Our physical homes become expressions of our inner home, rather than substitutes for it. And our relationships become spaces of shared presence, rather than attempts to fill a void. Our work, our communities, and our daily interactions all begin to reflect something deeper. Well, this is what I've found anyway. So there's a light within each of us. You may have felt it at times, and perhaps in moments of stillness, in connection with others, in nature, or even in the midst of difficulty. This light is not something we need to create. It is something we uncover, and it guides us. A bit like in the video where the woman had a revelation. She felt guided after ups and downs of the rain and the terrain. It heals us, not by fixing everything externally, but by reconnecting us to what is truly internal. When we begin to trust this light, something profound happens. We stop looking outside for constant validation. We stop trying to become something we are not, and we begin to rest in who we already are. And from that place, we can meet the world with more openness, more compassion, and more authenticity. So for a long time, I felt this deeply, but I didn't have the words for it. I sensed there was something more, something beneath the surface of everyday life, something that connected everything, but I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to live it. And then just before I went through my training with One Spirit, and through the training itself, something began to shift. It didn't give me all the answers. It gave me a language, a framework, a way of understanding what I had always felt. And that's where I tried to turn what I felt inward to how I am outwardly. opened me up to the possibility that this sense of home was not just a feeling, but something that could be lived, something that could be embodied. Now I begin to see this idea of home everywhere, in everyday interactions, in moments of kindness, in the work of charities and organisations, in communities that come together. And whenever people connect from a place of authenticity, and whenever there is compassion, presence and understanding, there is a glimpse of home. And it doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It can be as simple as listening to something fully, as offering kindness without expectation, as being present in a moment without needing to change it. These are small acts, but they are powerful because they come from that inner place. A lot of the work I do, this is where I'm finding glimpses of home, and it spurs me on to keep doing that kind of work. And as long as I keep uncovering them places, it keeps me vitalised and invigorated, so that's why I enjoy doing it. Right. So what does surrender look like in our daily lives? It can be very simple. It might mean letting go of the need to have all the answers, allowing yourself to feel without immediately trying to fix or change, trusting that you are enough even when things feel uncertain, pausing even briefly to reconnect with that inner stillness. Surrender is not a one-time act. It is a practice, a continual returning, a gentle reminder again and again that we do not need to force our way home. And perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of this is that we are not alone in it. Every person you meet is, in their own way, longing for home, even if it looks different on the surface, even if it expressed in different ways. That same inner call is there. When we begin to recognize this in ourselves, we can begin to recognize it in others. And that changes how we relate. It softens our judgment, it opens compassion, and it creates connection. So, what does it mean to come home? It is not about arriving somewhere new, it is about recognizing where we already are. It is about feeling, even for a moment, that a sense of peace, of belonging, of being held, and understanding that it is not something outside of us. It is who we are. So what if the home you are searching for is already within you? What if the longing you feel is not pointing you outward, but inward? And what if surrender, not striving, is your doorway? You don't have to force it. You don't have to figure it out. You simply have to be willing to soften, to listen, and to allow. Because home is not just something we create. For me, it is something we remember.